Are demons spoiling your plans all the time? Well, you can start off by simply no longer telling them your plans. See, while I see this aspect a bit more of psychiatry, well, I can tell you one thing. This title was made in a cheeky way, yes, but a lot of people have always something or someone to blame for their misfortune. Yes, your misfortune in most situations is done by other people directly or usually indirectly, but in most cases also you are the one who simply supports that. Because a lot of people will be teaching you shit, they will be telling you all sorts of things, they will pull you down, they will call you names because, well, when people are miserable, their main priority becomes that of perpetrating misery instead of actually fighting against it. Or, well, you can't fight against misery if you even dare try think about it, you're gonna become by default more miserable. See, demons are a kind of energy that doesn't suit you. They're not those almighty, all-powerful creatures that, these fuckers over the world want you to fear. They don't want you to fear demons. They want you to fear something, anything. Because when you fear things, you simply open yourself to certain forces, and you allow those forces partly control over you. If you are to compare yourself with most demons, it's like comparing yourself with a virus. It is far weaker, far smaller than you, but it has enough ways to simply screw you around, especially if you allow them. But even with viruses, there are means through which you are by default built to go around with them. People have believed blindly in these demons and the such because a lot of people are simply miserable. Miserable people, what do they do the most? They simply victimize. They always need someone to call as an oppressor so that they don't do any responsibility. They just play the role in which they're defenseless. And, forces beyond them will simply do whatever, right? Will simply torment them. And they have no choice. They have no power. You always have the power. One point of misery, or better said, one point of manipulation is to teach people they have no power, because they will be ceding their power. See, a lot of people are struggling with addictions. What an addiction is not a demonic influence. It is a conviction. It is a conviction that your life sucks if you don't do that thing. See, the more miserable you become, the more miserable one becomes, the more they shut down their emotions, the more insensitive they become, the less knowledgeable they become of their emotional condition, their spiritual condition and the such. People say the more spiritual you are, the more demons will piss off with you, the more will be pissed off with you, and the more active they will be on you. This is a bit false, because those energies, those what you call demons, they are energies that exist within you. They are partly representatives of nature. And these aspects of nature, well, they will exist within all of us. It is inevitable. Nature gave you a body for free, and you have to realize you're gonna, well, live by its rules. Now, if we go even further, these demons, they will always do their job with you. It's just when you're ignorant, you're not aware of them. Because that's what ignorance means. You're not aware of anything. So when you become aware, it's not that demons intensify their efforts, as most people say. Demons will be equally active, because these demons are not creations sent by God or by Satan necessarily towards you. They are the misaccomplishments of other people, their misery, even generations, hundreds of generations ago. Don't forget that you are born from a mother and a father who also have, their karmic substance. They also have their ancestral karma, which is placed on your shoulders as well. Now, it wasn't obviously enough that you also have your own, now you also bear your parents. So in a way, you kind of bear a lot of humanity's karma in a way. Having been forced into ignorance by many forces, people who lost it to madness and occult forces that they opened themselves with, bartering their awareness for supernatural powers? Well, one may say that things don't look too good, because all of these experiences of ours, all this misery, well, has opened us to all sorts of forces. Well, those forces have existed within you. Funnily speaking, when you're fussing about things, when you're crying about things, you're probably creating stronger demons than they actually exist. Even when you put piercings into your body, you're opening yourself to things, because your physical skin is designed to protect you from many forces. When you pierce it with metals, there is no metal in this world that will allow or attract energies that are compatible with your body. So through those metals, you're opening yourself to forces that, are far beyond you. Some people might ask, but why are those people, those gurus and the such, wearing, metal objects, piercings and the such? Well, those people are on a different path than you are. And most likely they have a different awareness. When you know how energies function, how energies can influence you, and whether they're influencing or not, those people can sit on a sofa and they can feel the influence of other people who stood on that sofa. Because when you sit on a chair or something, it's gonna take some information from you. It's gonna replicate it, because you're gonna impregnate it with your auric field in a way. Someone else will come there, they will be influenced by what you left there. This is one way through which misery simply spread itself. And it will always give you more ways in your mind that you can spread it, right? Putting piercings into your body is another way through which misery dictates you how to conduct self-destruction. I'm not saying piercings are necessarily bad, it's just that they're not suiting you in any shape, way or form. And there are some repercussions energetically speaking, but people are free to do whatever they want. When you have obsessions, see, an obsession, one has to understand, is a conviction. This conviction is nothing else but you being stuck on the idea that if you do that thing, you're gonna get the emotion you got. The more miserable you become, the less aware you become of your emotions. So you feel very numbed down. The first thing that happens to you that gives you some emotional output, you will become obsessed with it automatically. Be it bungee jumping, something extreme, or something very simple. This is something that happens to a lot of emotional people. If they go through a long period of ignorance, let's say they end up in a fight and they end up killing someone, they get some emotion, they will probably become obsessed with that, because they finally felt alive. Emotions are that which make you feel alive. Why do you think this sick society is telling you to move away from emotions? Why do you think this sick society is distracting you with all sorts of external forces, movies, video games, events? Because emotions are within you. Now when it comes to misery, the lower you go into misery, the more open you become to it, and the less emotion you feel. When you experience certain things that make you feel emotion after a certain period of time, you're gonna become obsessed with it, because you're gonna be, for a while, convinced that that is the only way through which you can experience that. Miserable people will only believe that the highest pleasure they can achieve is sex. They will indulge in it, but they will feel no pleasure. It will be a fleeting mini pleasure, let's say, but there is no fulfillment within their lives. Let's not forget that sex can screw you energetically in so many ways, especially if done with the wrong people. Now when it comes to obsessions, see, the obsession is a conviction. You can replace it with a different conviction that you're worthy, because usually you have obsessions that, obsession is like a signal that you put out to others that you need help. You're feeling overwhelmed by certain things and you require help. And you're going to conduct a lot of such behaviors in order to seek help. But the problem is you're not actually seeking help. The moment you're focusing on those obsessions, you're actually enforcing them instead of taking responsibility, looking inside and seeing what hurts there are. Typically it is an abandonment issue. Once you realize those things, you will start seeing those obsessions in a different way. Because once you become capable of seeing that those obsessions aren't demons or things, It's just your repetitive behaviors that strengthened and strengthened your belief that if you don't do that obsession, you're not gonna feel alive, or you're not gonna do this or that. You know, a lot of people, for example, pull themselves down, they make fun of themselves because they are convinced that it happened once, that some people laughed at them, so they gave them some attention. They're gonna repeat that so that they keep receiving attention. I'm telling you, as social beings, attention is a very powerful thing. People who lack attention, well, there's very few of them who can simply live alone. Those people know some level of stillness within. You can see that in them because they don't breathe too quickly. You will see that people who have a lot of obsessions, who have noisy minds, they breathe very fast. People who are calm, they breathe very slowly, because when you breathe slowly, you use more of your lung capacity, because when you breathe, you take life in. When you breathe superficially, you're like rejecting life. You're just taking a bit so that you keep yourself alive only just to suffer. It is a way through which you're punishing your physical body. Yet my question is, why are you punishing your physical body? It's always doing all that it can in order to keep you alive and experience things, right? So stop thinking that other forces are pulling you down. Yes, some forces exist. You don't have to attribute them to personified demons who are super strong and blah blah blah. Those ideas are just some sick people's fantasies, and you know, miserable people, they want you to waltz with them, they want you to dance with them, they want you to share your time with them and your well, their madness. See, you are born to be a free life, a life free of other people's misery. It is theirs for the taking, not yours. Whether you choose to share it, well, that is up to you entirely. People will say this, people will say that. It's up to you to use your discernment. But ignorance means you're denying your discernment, because ultimately, why would you take your discernment into account? It is a force that, for example, not even creation has, because creation doesn't create based on discernment. That means racism would have been an issue when it comes to creation. Yet a lot of people simply deny this because people can't believe that, you know, creation is completely different than them. Now, if we are to move even further in life, don't attribute anything to beings or events or manifestations that are beyond your awareness, because if something is beyond your awareness, you want to think about those. You're going to open your mind to all sorts of possibilities. Your mind will invent all sorts of things. Or, if you're wise enough, some answers might bubble up from previous lifetimes or from the wisdom that exists in your karmic field, and you might end up with some answers. But when you're not aware enough, then there is a question. How can you be sure that it is not your imagination playing games with you, right? So don't focus on things you don't know. Seek within, seek solace, and answers will start coming. It is a long process, because the universe opens itself and its secrets to people who dare open their hearts. In order to open your heart to these secrets, you need to be calm. You need to be still. You need to learn how your energies function, how your body functions. But you're not capable of even understanding your emotions. So don't blame things on demons and the such, right? Because those are nothing else but the misaccomplishments and misery of others. There are obviously forces who don't serve you in this universe. There are billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of forces all around you and within you. Don't forget that you live in a physical body. This physical body has forces that serve you and forces that remind you that you're immortal, remind you of your limitations. Because if you don't become aware of your limitations, you can't break out of them, so you'll simply stagnate. When you stagnate, well, that's equally an idea of death, because death in a way is stagnation. There is theoretically no more evolution, but even a dead body evolves in a way. It gets consumed by some cells. It is still part, in a way, of evolution, the evolution of things. It's just that people prefer being simple-minded because it's much easier than simply thinking at the more complex ideas. But thinking at complex ideas, you need to have a very simple mind, not be simple-minded, but have a simple mind, because, well, simplicity is the greatest complexity. When things are very convoluted, and very twisted, that's a horrible way to be. Something simple can be very complex, because it is much easier to judge something that has a lot of shapes and facets and such. It is much harder to judge a cube or a sphere, because, you know, everything in a way looks perfect when it comes to them. They have, you know, a cube has 6 faces, you know, when you look at them, they're all the same, you know, everything is equal. When you look at the sphere, you know, what can you speak about it, right? There's not much you can talk about that. Similarly, a mind can think of all sorts of complex ideas, but it doesn't intwist itself, or some people simply don't intwist themselves in the meaning that they need to use, because you need to make use of meaning in this universe. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness, and, well, remember that don't focus on things that are beyond your awareness and your control. Because when you are an ignorant, you're not going to be aware that, you know, certain forces are influencing you. The more aware you become, the more aware you'll also be of the forces that are influencing you. Of some of them, not all. So you'll think that those forces are working harder and harder. Aren't these fuckers nowadays telling you that, you know, God, Jesus, the angels, they're all working for you? This is kind of a wrong personified version of the world, because they're not specifically working for you. They have certain influences because you are part of creation. So in a way, being part of creation, you are by default open to all of its forces, to which you prefer to attune yourself. You will receive some help from those. But don't look at things as if there is something up there, some being up there that does everything deliberately for you, because it is a completely stupid way to live. If God is doing everything deliberately for you in order to help you, who are you to deserve that? Ask yourself this thing: do you really deserve that God themselves actually helps you? What makes you certain that God themselves doesn't help your enemies as well? You're definitely not, you're definitely no more worthier to God than your enemies are. See, the fact that you're calling one another enemies, that's separation. That's something that you have not fulfilled. There are interests or whatever. Because physicality is related to resources, and, you know, resources will always require competition, and competition will require enemies. But you, your enemies, well, you're both equal to God. So stop thinking that God is doing something deliberately for you, or Jesus, or anyone other being, well, specifically presented in religious books. It is hard for people to believe that, because when you are born in abandonment, you kind of become aware that your family never wanted you. And you're thinking that, at least if my family didn't want me, maybe God or Jesus. Well, you can't say God or Jesus don't want you necessarily, because you've beaten all the odds. You've beaten all the possibilities, and there you are. You are now alive, and, you know, you're kicking. For a certain limited time, yes. But don't focus on things beyond your awareness, because you're probably gonna conduct even more misery in your life. Because a lot of people end up in misery because they think Jesus is doing everything he can to make their life better, right? But at the same time, they're aware that they're slacking and they're not doing anything with their lives. So the question is, why would Jesus waste their time with you? Just because Jesus is eternal, it doesn't mean they're necessarily bothered with you specifically. As I said, all these forces are part of creation, and how you live your life, you will attune yourself to some of these forces. They're not necessarily giving you deliberately their help. Imagine them like some, to put it in a very simple-minded version, imagine that you're in a city, right? In the city you have numerous Wi-Fi forces. You can think and solve problems alone, on your own, or with other people. But if you have a phone and you use Wi-Fi, you get all the access to extra information, right? Because you can do that. Those Wi-Fi forces are exactly, you know, as I call them, those Wi-Fi energies are exactly like the forces of the universe, to which you attune yourself. You will receive certain points. Some forces are weaker, some forces are stronger, just like Wi-Fi connections. It is a very simple-minded comparison, yes, but I'm willing to remind people that no force in this universe is gonna deliberately help you. It will send you a bit of its help, but it's not because you're more special than others. You're just more connected, and that is a different thing. Hopefully this raised a bit of awareness. You're appreciated. Take care. Enjoy life. And this being said, Ferenjan Board signing out.